Does it sound like it's echoing? Sound like an echo?
Yeah, but not really the echo, it's that chirp.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see something. Shalom.
Shalom.
Still doing it? Come.
Right. Shalom. Alright, yeah, shalom. I keep, first and foremost, we're going to say, God, Halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, B'chakadash. Of course, we want to give double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone. Shalom salutation to all you sincere occupants. Of course, the four winds, pushing the super sincerity of heart. Of course, GMS Truth Sent, another episode of the Hebrew Israelite Diaspora, going into the Moorish Empire. I think it just says Moorish, right? The Moorish Empire. But we're going into our part 2. Concluding, the Moorish Empire. Hey, there's a lot of information that came in. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. At part 1, part 2 is really the conclusion of it. So we still gonna hit some topics, bring some scriptures about the scattering, of Yasha'Allah, the election, because it's really ultimately about the election. It's showing that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua's elect spirit are scattered across the four winds. So once you understand that, then you understand that, hey, you know what? Now, the fact that they were scattered across the four winds, they picked up they came up with their own cultures, so-called cultures, right? And one of the so-called cultures that the nation of Israel came up with was what? The Moorish Empire, being a Moor, right? Which Moor goes back to what the Latin, it was Latin Moreno. Moreno meaning black or Negro. And then we found out, what did we find out? We found out that part of the Moorish Empire, you had Simeonites on it. Remember the Simeonite that what's that, Tarif? Tarif, the man of Simeon that dwell in Morocco. So we found out that that's why you have a lot of Moroccans. A lot of Moroccans are from the tribe of Simeon in northern Africa. Why? Because during the Moorish Empire, while you had a few Israelites of the northern kingdom, such as Zebulon, but most heavily Simeon, which is not a surprise because Shemaiah one has his lot in Judah. A Simeonite sometimes can pass for a Judite, plain and simple. So you got that history going on. So, but when you remember, these are Simeonites that picked up the culture of the Moors, stayed in North Africa, had children with the Berber tribe, which is which are Hamites. So they're coming out looking like what you see right there in Morocco.
Right.
So there's a reason why. Example, Exhibit A, we talked about it, French Montana.
Yep.
The rapper French Montana, he's of Moroccan descent. But you can look at the dude and tell, man, this dude look like an average Simeonite from the Bronx, man. So again, this is more wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we going into the last days. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua sealing his elect. Now, can you give that Revelation, Raksha? Let's start off with that. Revelation 7.
This is Revelation 7.
Start at 1.
Verse 1.
And then I can forward jump down to verse 9.
Come.
Revelation 7 and 1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth,
Right.
holding the 4 winds of the earth,
Right.
that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels,
Right.
to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads.
Right, it's about the sealing the elect. You know what I'm saying? And again, the elect are not just here in America, the elect is scattered across the 4 winds.
Right.
Now, when you talk about Zechariah 13 and 8, when it says, you know, 2/3, 2 parts shall be
Cut off and die.
shall be cut off and die. That particular scripture, Zechariah is speaking about what's going to happen here to Israel right here in America.
Right.
So you got to be able to put that distinction. In that particular scripture is talking about 2 parts of Israel in Babylon shall be cut off and die. You know what I'm saying? Then the 1/3 out of Babylon shall go through the fire. Trials and tribulation, and ultimately being delivered from the fire of what? The thermonuclear missiles. And then all the remaining of the elect scattered across the 4 winds are going to join up with the 144,000. Go on.
It says, verse 4, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Jumping down to verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds, and people, and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands.
That's right. Now, and that multitude is talking about Israelites that not only, of course, Israelites that were scattered amongst the diaspora, you know, as part of the diaspora, and particularly when Israel was scattered in 70 AD, because that's when we started off with the diaspora going back to 70 AD, the besiege of Jerusalem. And remember, Israel spread their seed. As a matter of fact, go to Genesis, when it says the sons of God, and they're seeing that that
they were fair.
Right, that the women of the sons of men were fair, because that's exactly what happened. So it's nothing new for Israel to go across the 4 winds and spread their seeds. And then their seeds are not going to look exactly like an Israelite would look if both of his parents was of Israelite descent.
Right.
But the child is still an Israelite because the Israelite sperm carries an Israelite spirit.
Right.
You have to understand that. The Israelite sperm carries an Israelite spirit within it. That's why the mother does not determine who you are, because the mother does not carry them. The mother does not
carry the sperm.
Carry not just the sperm. The mother does not carry the spirit.
Right.
The spirit of a man travels through the sperm of a man. That's why, again, the Israelite sperm carries an Israelite spirit within it. So regardless of where the sperm lands, it doesn't matter. Now, the flesh is going to look different, because the flesh of the genetics is going to be a mixture of the sperm and the genetics of the woman. That's why the child is going to come out looking slightly different. You know, it might look like the heathens, whatever. But the sperm that was put in that incubator, that sperm carried an Israelite spirit. Right?
It says, Genesis 6, verse 2.
Right?
Genesis 6 and 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men.
Right, the sons of God is what? It's what? The sons of the Most High, or Banyam Yahweh. Or Banyam
Allah.
Yeah, Banyam Allah. Right, sons of power. Right, the sons of power, Banyam Allah. Who are the sons of power? The sons of power is Yasha Allah, the prince of the power, which is the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes from Judah on down to Issachar. Now, those tribes were scattered abroad after the besiege. Well, and particularly the 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and a few Israelite tribes that was in the midst of the southern kingdom. They were scattered across the 4 winds. You know, and they came up with a culture later on called what? The Moorish culture, which was really from Islam, derived from Islam, the worship of what? The rock. And we went into that in part 1. The stone, worshiping the stone, the Kaaba stone, Islam, which is idol worship. That's the reason why the Moorish Empire was taken down, the Ottoman Turks and so on and so forth. Why? Because Yahweh Bashim Yahshua was not dealing with Israel, you know what I'm saying, at that time. He let them thrive. But what did the Lord say then? There's let me get that on Amos right quick, brother. I think it's when the Lord said he despised the excellency of Jacob. Because the Moorish Empire was an excellent empire for a little bit of time. But it wasn't let me see, it's Amos. No, not Amos. Yeah, it's Amos chapter 6, verse 8. Started at 7.
Amos 6, verse 7. Therefore now shall they go captive with the first that go captive, and the banquet of them that stretch themselves shall be removed.
Right, didn't the Moors went captive? The Moors was the so-called Negroes, right, that went captive, right? The so-called white man, of course, they was sold by the Ishmaelites. They went captive, but remember, when as Moors, you know, so-called Negroes was what? They were living a lavish life, as we're going to go back into on the book in Babylon and Timbuktu and the city of Cordoba. So hold up, what is the city of Cordoba? The city of Cordoba was a dope-ass city, as we're going to see it. Go ahead.
Verse 8, Yahweh power have sworn by himself, saith the Lord power, Lord the power of hosts. I abhor the excellency of Jacob.
You see that? Now remember, who is Jacob? Jacob is Jacob is Israel, the sons of the Most High. So why would he say that he abhor? What does it mean to abhor? To have disdain.
Detest.
Detest. Why would the Lord say, I abhor the excellency of Jacob? Shouldn't he be happy that Jacob is excellent? No, because you are being excellent under what? Under idol worship. Under a different culture, so-called culture. A different belief. A different image. So every time Israel is so-called succeeding under anything outside of the truth, the Lord say he abhors it and he's going to shut it down. He's going to send you into what? Into slavery. Right?
And hate his palaces.
See that? Yeah, so the Lord the Lord hated Cordoba. As we're going to go into it. Cordoba is the city that you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans call yourself Moors under Islam built. And the fine cities and the lights. The Lord said he hates he hated all these palaces, man. Because you wasn't coming up in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua under his order. What?
Therefore will I deliver up the city with all that is therein.
Ain't that what happened to the Moors? That's exactly what happened to the Moors, man.
To include the plagues.
With the plagues.
Black Death.
That's right.
That's why they call it the Black Death, the bubonic plague.
That's right.
It was killing Jake, you know?
That's right. I see a brother said, clear as way. Said, hello brother, I'm doing research on Creole. I'm praying that Creole don't have no Edomite blood in them. Well, I mean, some of them do. I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, because Creole goes back to what? French and Levi and Haiti and all that.
Just pray that, never mind the Edomite blood, just pray that, because like the brother was talking about the whole seed thing. It's about the seed. Obviously, you see, what people get messed up on is the traits of an individual. They think the traits of an individual, that makes him what he is. Because he may have the features of the mother, and she looks white, so he has the pointy nose, and they're like, oh, he's half-breed, like Tommy Sotomayor says. It's stupid shit. You gotta understand, our bodies are like unto the earth.
That's right.
Everything is like unto the earth. The Heavenly Father did everything like unto the earth. That's why our hair grows, when we drink water, our skin looks smooth, just like when the land is heavily irrigated, it looks smooth. So with the seeds, when you plant a seed into different soils, the seed comes out looking different, the fruit comes out looking different, but it's still the same fruit.
Well, think about it. It would look weird as hell. It would make the Heavenly Father is not an author of confusion.
That's right.
It would be a confusing thing if I had a child with an Edomite woman and my son come out looking like me. All my features and all of my features and none of her features.
Well, you know that does happen.
No, when I say, well, no. When I say, well, I mean, you gotta have some type of.
I mean, like, because
I'm not saying like I'm saying like me. Example, I come out of of an Israelite man and an Israelite woman. Clear, dark skin. You can see the features. I don't have no Edomitish. But if you have a child with a heathen, just off of the flesh, the way it's composed, it's got to be some type of ish you know, feature-ish of that race. Just like you said, when you put an apple in a particular land, although it's still an apple, it has the features of that land. Now, the reason why I brought that up is because look at Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson said, well, those children were his children. Now, we don't know, but most of us like, nah, come on, man.
You clearly didn't look nothing, because just because you got a procedure done, don't change your sperm.
You know, but what did it do? It brought confusion. Because Jake is like, yo, okay, we know these children, Mike. These children, we understand your children, even if they have heavy, you know, their features from their mothers are super heavy, they gotta have something from you, bro. There's no way they could just come out looking straight. You just be Edomites, man. It brings about confusion. But you shouldn't get stuck on that, because at the end of the day, it's about, like we said, it's about the spirit of a man that's driven, that's pushed through the sperm of a man.
But Clarence Ray said, my father's Creole, my mother's black, and probably mixed up with Indian, and they gave it to America. Native American and mixed up, but my grandfather, my mother, is all dark. My father's is Creole. But once again, it's not really a nationality. It's like their term of mixing French and Haitian together. And it's not a nationality. Creole is not in the table of nations, man.
That's right.
But then again, once again, people get mixed up off of traits and stuff like that. For example, they'll say, well, a lot of Hispanics, the Latin brothers, northern tribes, they'll say, oh, they go back to white because look at their skin. It's a reason why the woman was made to not carry over the seed like the man does. Because what people fail to realize is that even if an Edomite, because they'll say, well, if Edomite pops a Latin woman, right, and the child comes out light, then that child will go back to Esau, right? It wouldn't be a Latin tribe. That's why the Heavenly Father made more women than he did men.
That's right.
That's why he made more women than he did men. So when a lot of them babies came out, they were women. And what do we know about that? The women don't matter when it comes to transferring over the nation. So a lot of our men got with those women that came out lighter, and guess what? Our babies came out later down the line lighter, man. Because it's about the man seed, man. That's the reason why a lot of our Hispanic brothers are lighter. It don't mean that they go back to Esau.
That's right. That's right. Precept. This is 1 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 1. It says, so all Israel were reckoned by genealogies, and behold, they were written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgressions.
Yeah, they were reckoned by genealogy, by their lineage.
That's right.
So guess what? The lineage is by their fathers. All right. But guess what? There was a point in history where it was the priests. They were looking to see what register that these particular Israelites came from, and they couldn't find their register.
That's right.
And they had to wait on a human and Thummim to come by to see who they were.
Right.
But what if we don't? But today we don't have a human and Thummim, a physical human and Thummim. What do we have now? The spiritual human and Thummim.
The scripture said, try the spirit by the spirit. And we know it's through the spirit that we know that we Israelites. Why? Because the spirit is called the spirit of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. So if you have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures, and you fully comprehend, you know, what's being taught to you, right? Then you're an Israelite, man. Because a heathens cannot fully comprehend these teachings. How do we know? Because, man, listen, you got 2/3, you got guys that are Israelites that can't even fully comprehend. Look at that guy Nazariah, Shai tribe of fire. That guy's, he's an Israelite, but he can't comprehend the words of the Lord. So if you don't have the physical appearance, right? The physical appearance of an Israelite, so to speak, but you can fully comprehend the scriptures, man, you're an Israelite, man. Without a doubt. So, and that's what it's about. And
you Israelite brothers out there, you Israelite brothers out there that's doubting that you're an Israelite, but you know in your spirit that I believe in this truth, just keep rocking with it, man.
Hey, also, again, the scripture says, man, endless genealogy, because the brother Clarence Ray, he said, I'm doing research. Now stop doing the research on Creole, brother. Stop doing that, man. You get the endless genealogies. Because I brought up Chronicles when it says also all Israel were reckoned by genealogy, back then it said they had the books. It says were written in the books of the kings. That's why, you know, I've been reading Chronicles, you had names, father of this, the father of that. But these things, like the brother said, these things are not available to us because of the Lord. Yahweh Hashem Al-Shah made sure that we wouldn't have to go and look into books to search for our fathers. We would have to look into the spirit. We have to be spiritually acute to be able to find our fathers, man, and our teachers. So stop going into genealogy, because you get your mind messed up, because you will find certain individuals that you are certain were heathens, and they're Israelites. And you're going to keep on digging and digging. And I'm going to be real, you can't dig all the way, because if you're digging, you got to dig all the way back to 1,500 years in Africa. You know, now you got to dig into the diaspora. You got to dig into that.
The DNA tests are not accurate, man.
Oh man.
You had triplets and twins that did a DNA test. Their DNA test came out separate. How is that possible if they're twins? Man. And triplets and quadruplets. How is it saying one goes back to Germany and one goes back? That's stupid. All right. So don't do that. And I'm gonna say this about the skin color. A lot of our brothers that's a different skin color than us having a hard time. You gotta understand it. It's also a curse if it's not applied right in their mind, man. It's a curse. Because a lot of Israelites that's our color, the traditional look of an Israelite, they think that they're goddamn Hamites.
Yeah.
So it's also a curse, man.
Absolutely.
How many people that look like us, the traditional Israelites, talking about we black, brother, we all go back to Africa. It's a curse.
Yeah.
All right.
You can't rely on anything that's carnal, anything that's physical. You got to trust in the spirit.
1 Timothy 1:4, neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions.
Right. All you're going to get is just more questions and more questions. But we understand, all of us when we first came in, we started looking, you know, I started, you know, diving. I'm like, oh shit, I hope I ain't got no fucking Edomite or fucking Arab in my fucking blood, man. But the spirit, eventually the spirit told us, nah, man, just trust in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? And the spirit is lively. Just like the women, the Hebrew midwives said about our women ain't the only lively. We the number one most lively. The men, the Israelite men. Right. We have that what the world calls swag. Right. You know, that's the poor man's word for having the spirit. Right. The spirit of creativity. You know.
Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions.
That's right.
Rather than godly edifying, which is in faith.
That's right.
So do.
Godly edifying in faith. That's what it's about. It's about godly edifying in faith. So, you know, stop all the genealogy and looking up, you know, all this now, man. That don't matter. What matters is now, you know, you're an Israelite, study the word so you can preach the word to the next man.
That's right. The
next Hebrew Israelite man, regardless of what he looks like. Because if his spirit is an Israelite spirit, then you can teach him the word, but it still doesn't mean he's an elect. So there's multiple layers. You got to get past the first layer of physical appearance. You got to get past it. Now, brother, let's go back. Let's go to the book.
All right. This is from Babylon to Timbuktu again. All right. Going to page 110. Starting at the very last paragraph. And it says, the Moors were known for more than just conquest. While the remaining part of Europe was in a state of ignorance, the Spanish people took advantage of the knowledge of the black Moors. During the Moorish rule, many other capitals of Europe were mere hamlets. But Cordoba, the capital of Spain, was a booming city. It is said that after dark, one could walk many miles in Cordoba and never pass through a street not lighted by public lights.
Remember we read in Amos, where how the Lord said, I abhor the excellency of Jacob and I hate all their palaces. Why? Because, you know, the Moors, you know, so-called Negroes, and, you know, Israelites, they were coming up in Islam, man. They were coming up in the spirit of Islam. So you got the Cordoba? You pull that up?
I didn't have Cordoba.
But yeah, the brother's going to pull up on the city of Cordoba, so you can get like a visual. You know, you can get a visual of the excellency of Jacob as, you know, the Moors. But see, the Lord still didn't. The Lord wasn't with it, and that's the reason why the Moors didn't. They had a short stint in history, and then, you know, after that, what happened? They went into captivity, man, and they became what you know today as so-called African Americans, so-called Haitians, so-called West Indians, you know what I'm saying, and so-called Simeonites. You know, I said Simeonites, so-called Dominicans. Because Northern Africa is heavy with Dominicans in there, man. So-called Dominicans of the tribe of Simeon. You know, so that's what you do with the history. That's why the Lord said, let me get this precept right quick. This is Job. You know, because everything's all about fearing the Lord and then getting the knowledge so you can give it to your next brother. So you got to feed yourself, of course, and then feed the next man. Because that's how the Yahweh Shem Shah is building up his army. He's building up his army through his spirit and power of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You know, because first you got to get the understanding and then you get the power. You can't get the power before you get the understanding. So this is Job chapter 29. Right here. It's Job chapter 29, verse 16. It says, Job 29 and 15. It says, I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not, I searched out. So the cause that we know not, we got to search out. You know, we are the men of the Lord. We have to study the answer. And when we search out, we give it to the poor. Who are the poor? The poor is the Israelites.
That's right.
Those are the poor. Why? Because we piss, the nation of Israel is piss poor spiritually, mentally, piss poor spiritually, mentally, and physically, man. The morally, we just totally out of whack, man. So as men of the Lord, we've been set up to be the watchmen. Watch over what? Watch over the election and feed the election with this continual bread, man. Which is what? The knowledge of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Feeding you with the fear of the Lord, man. Don't hold on, because you got these dudes talking about, they call themselves Moors in 2018. Don't hold on to that, man. That was a period in time of Israel in ignorance, still finding ways to be excellent in ignorance and in wickedness, man. Don't hold on to that. Go back further than that, to the past, to the Ibar, which is the Hebrew. Right?
Continuing on in the book, it says, when a person walked out after dark in London, he had to carry a candle or lantern with him to illuminate his path. Remember what the brother said about leave that in the past, right? His path, and had to wear high shoes to walk through the thick mud that often covered the roads. It's lucky. All right. It says, I want to pull the more up. All right. It says, when many Europeans were garbed in skins and in coarse garments, the Moors were wearing silks, linens, and cotton cloth. They also washed in 900 bathhouses of Cordoba. The palace of the Moor Sultan and Caliph was far greater in beauty, comfort, and wealth than any of the castles of the medieval kings. The Most High said, I hate your palaces.
That's right. Look up the word Caliph, because remember, Esau uses that word. It's good to learn about this word, because when Esau speaks about these so-called terrorist groups in these places like Hamas, you know, so-called terrorist groups like Hamas and the Taliban, and you know, Esau got certain codes. So look up Caliph, because I think it goes back to Caliphate.
Yeah, Caliphate.
Yeah, go into Wikipedia right quick.
A caliphate is a state under the leadership of an Islamic steward with the title of caliph. It says a person considered a religious successor to the Islamic prophet Muhammad and a leader of the entire Muslim community. Historically, the caliphates were polities based in Islam, or polities based in Islam, which developed into multi-ethnic transnational empires.
Right, multi-ethnic. So that's why you had the Arabs, of course. You had also Elam. You also had Elam, you know, because you have this Islam. We always go back to the two most powerful false belief that have destroyed the earth, starting with the nation of Israel, is Christianity and Islam. Right. Islam is gotten, of course, coming from the Arabs, the Ishmaelites. You know, they found that, right? And then that spirit jumped on Israel. That spirit also jumped on Elam. Because that's why you got these Persians and Iran. You got Iran Afghanistan, India, they into Islam, but they're Shiites. Why? Because their beliefs is a little bit different. It's slightly different than the Sunnis, which are who? Which are Ishmaelites, or Saudi Arabia. But they all practice so-called Islam, man. So that's why I say a multi-ethnic, what's the word? What was the word again?
Multi-ethnic.
Multi-ethnic something.
Multi-ethnic transnational empire.
Transnational empire.
Yeah.
So those are empire that was they have what they have many ethnicities, man. And one of those ethnicities was who? It was Israelites. Yeah. Right?
It says the Moors used extremely highly polished marble in their construction. The sides of the walls were patiently carved, and the floors were made with various decorations called mosaics. It is said that the Moors were masters in mosaic work.
Hold on, look up the word mosaic right quick. So when you now brothers know, when you see the word caliphate, you know what it is. You know, it's this sultan, it's leaders of the Islamic faith, so to speak. Whoever's recognized as the top leader or top head of the Islamic faith. So niggas was going up in the ranks in Islam, man. Yep.
Now it's two of them, which I think is the second one, but mosaic is the adjective. It says pertaining to Moses.
Who was Moses?
Yep.
Who was Moses? Moses, going back to Exodus, you know, going back to Genesis, Moses in the Hebrew, right? Moses was a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Levi. His name in the Hebrew was Mashah, meaning drawn. Why? Because he was drawn out of the waters of Egypt. You know, which was a representation of what? Of the nation of Israel being drawn out of what? The captivity, man. The captivity of Egypt, man. So it's talking about, remember, this is talking about dudes that's supposed to be in the mindset of Islam, but they're building a temple in the form of what? In a mosaic, in the form of how Moses and the Hebrew Israelites would build their temples, right? Read on it.
It's another one that says mosaic as a noun. Mosaic work of the muses. Jump down to the point. It says the word formed in medieval Latin as though from Greek, but late Greek word for mosaic work, which goes back to you know, when you go with mosaic pertaining to Moses.
Right. Now, when you go back to that paragraph, brother, the palace. Go back to the paragraph when it says how they construct the construction, the palace of the Moorish Sultan.
The palace of the Moorish Sultan or Caliph was far greater in beauty, comfort, and wealth than any of the castles of the medieval kings.
Right.
The Moors used extremely high polished marble in their construction. The sides of the walls were patiently carved, and the floors were made with various decorations called mosaics.
Now pull up the city y'all called over right quick, and then let's go to Revelation and see if there's a link on how the Moors built their kingdom and how Israel's kingdom, you know, how the mindset. It's not a coincidence. When you look at these cities, you look at the high, expensive, high-grade marbles, the stones. Now, when you go to, let's read a little bit about Revelation 21, when it speaks about how the temple is going to be built. You know, the Lord goes into the type of the different stones. Let's go to 21 and
this is Revelation 21 verse 18. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones.
That's the kingdom of heaven. So you think it's a coincidence that the Moors built their kingdom in a mosaic? You know, to dedicate it to the dedication to Moses in a mosaic way, because it goes back to the spirit of Israel, man. It goes back to the spirit of Israel. Why? Because the Moors were Israelites, man. And when they built their cities, a little bit of that spill was in them. That's why they went for those precious marbles. They didn't have affinity for diamonds. Although diamonds is, it's precious stone, but not as rubies and jasper. So again, it lets you know it was us. It's just what? The thing is, we wasn't moving in the right spirit. Right. Now, this is right quick. This is Daniel chapter 9, verse 7. It says, "O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, or unto us confusion of faces, as at this day, to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off." That's talking about the scattering and the confusion of faces. The word face going back to Tazalam is what? It's an image. What is the image? It goes back to Genesis. The image is talking about what? The ways of the Lord. That's what the image is. The image is the ways of the Lord, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So when you're having confusion of images, that means you're moving in a different image, in a different way. Till this day, and to the men of Judah. That's when you go into the Moors. The Moors started with the men of Judah, man. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, man. And then, like I said, a sprinkle of Simeonites here and there. But it's still Israel being scattered. That's why I said near and far off. It says, through all the countries which thou hast driven them, because of their trespass that they have trespassed against thee. So it's talking about all these countries in which we've been driven into. So when you are driven into another land, and the Most High removes his face from you, meaning his ways, then guess what? You're either going to pick up the ways of the heathens, or you're going to want to come up with your own shit, man. But see, Israel is still able to try to, in a way, prosper. Even in wickedness, Israel is able to prosper. And that's all it was. The Moors were just Israelites prospering in wickedness, man. Right?
Continuing on in the book, it says, the Arabs and Moor were known not only for their handicraft, but also for their science. Most of the knowledge of ancient Greece and the Near East was unknown in Europe during the medieval period. The Arabs had come into close relationship with Greek and Persian culture.
Right.
The Arabs did not destroy this culture. Instead, they brought it to North Africa.
Right. So that's why you got a lot of Greekish fashion in Northern Africa. But like I said, it was the Arabs. When they say Arabs, really, they're talking about the Moors. But some of them, had Ishmaelites, but it was mostly driven by Jakes, man. Right.
There were many famous Moors and Hebrew scholars in southern Spain. The black Jews, like the Arabs and Moors, made a great contribution, not only to Afro-Asia civilization, but also to the European. The Jews in the East knew Greek and Syriac. They helped translate the works of the Greek philosophers into Arabic. In turn, these works were studied by the Arab-speaking Jews of North Africa and Spain and translated into the Hebrew.
That's right.
The black Jews of the Moorish kingdom of Spain translated these works into the Latin language.
You see that? So there was a lot of translations
going on.
A lot of translations going on. From it says the black Jews, which really is talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. It says of the Moorish kingdom of Spain translated these works into the Latin language. So when you go into a lot of the history of the Moors and Arab, when you go into the 700s, it's not really Ishmael. In the 700s, it's really Israelites. Like the picture that the brother had. You talking about 711 AD. A lot of these, the artifact on the architecture, it wasn't Ishmaelites. But see, the thing is, Ishmaelites would take credit for it.
Right.
Just like Esau takes credit for our existence in England and in Scotland. So the Ishmaelites also take credit for this, man. But it's talking about us, so-called Negroes. Israelites, man. Go ahead, brother.
That's right. It says, continuing on in the book, Salakia, it says, in turn, okay, I want to go to where it says, It says the black Jews of the Moorish kingdom of Spain translated these works into the Latin language. And from Spain, the sciences of the Greeks and the Afro-Asian people were transmitted to Western Europe. Erudite Moorish men made spectacular contributions to philosophy.
Right, philosophy means a level of wisdom.
Right.
You know, and really to be a philosophist, you have to have the knowledge of the words of the Lord. You know, because the wisdom, can I get that right quick, mother? The Apocrypha, Sirach 19 and 20.
Come.
You know, the scripture tells you that, hey, the true wisdom really is to fear the Lord. The thing is, Jake has this thing with, when it comes to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, Jake doesn't show no fear. But when there's something about when a nigga is in Islam, now all of a sudden he wants to pray 5 times a day. Now he wants to make sure his woman is covered. Oh, by the way, his woman wants to be covered.
Right, wants to be.
You know, wants to be covered.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she wants to listen to what he got to say, because it's when they are under that spirit of Islam, man. What?
Sirach 19 in verse 19. The knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life.
Right.
And they that do things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality. The fear of the Lord is all wisdom.
Right, the fear of the Lord is all wisdom. That's when you get the true wisdom, man.
That's right.
It's through the fear of the Lord, go ahead.
And in all wisdom is the performance of the law and the knowledge of his omnipotence.
See that? So that's the understanding of all wisdom. The fear of the Lord is all wisdom. That's why I said in Ecclesiastes 12, right? The conclusion of the matter.
Yep.
Fear of the Lord and Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, and keeping his laws, statutes, commandments. So when you go into and understand it, that scripture even goes further and says that understanding his
of his omnipotence.
Omnipotency, meaning omnipotent means he's being everywhere all at once. So when you understand that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is everywhere all at once, then you fully grasp what? The wisdom.
Right.
Because it scares the shit out you, man. Because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He sees everything.
Yeah.
He can look at you through the trees. He can look. Why? Because he has his spirit flows into every living creature on the planet.
Yeah.
So when you put a step, like right here, when you put a step on the floor, it sends out a vibration that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is aware of. Because everything is interconnected, man. Right. There's nothing that happens and he has no idea. As a matter of fact, he's programmed you to make that move, man.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Right.
It says, erudite Moorish men made spectacular contributions to philosophy, medicine, mathematics, chemistry, astronomy, and botany. The Muslim doctors were no sawbones, but masters of their science. They established...
What's the sawbones?
Sawbones, yeah.
It said the Muslim doctors were no
sawbones.
When they said Muslim, they're talking about Israelites.
Right.
It said there were no sawbones. Which I'm kind of getting an idea.
You idea what it is. They just wasn't just cutting.
Yeah.
Sawbone. You go to the Merriam. Slang for physician and surgeon.
There you go.
A real old timer who remembers when you could expect his sawbones to make a house call. Just your average physician. Basically, they was great at their.
Yeah, and then also it speaks about like go up a little bit more. Scroll up. It says the one above, surgeon, physician and surgeon, meaning people that dealt with opening up, with your wounds.
It's slang. It's slang for a physician.
A surgeon. Right. A surgeon is somebody who performs surgeries.
Right.
And back then, of course, the surgeries was different. But even back then, they were cutting to the flesh. Right. They were cutting to the flesh. They would pour liquor in the joint and try to remove whatever thing was in there. Would it be like an arrow? Right. If an arrow was in there, they'll tell you, all right, don't remove the arrow and break it. And you know how they do it and pour liquor on it. So that was like the old timers. They were doing the old school way, man. Let's go back. Muslim.
It says the Muslim doctors were no sawbones, but masters of their science. They established academies and universities for the rich. Also, there were many free schools. There were excellent libraries. The scholarly Caliph of Cordoba in the 10th century sent all over the world for books. The library of this Caliph contained over 400,000 volumes. Moorish normal life was based on agriculture, manufacturing, and trade. The Moors brought into Spain rice, cotton, peaches, oranges, and lemons. Israelites did this.
That's right.
Silk culture was introduced into Spain by the Moors.
Silk culture.
Silk.
Now pull up silk right quick. You see, I mean, brothers know what a silk is, but the thing with silk represents glory, because when you wearing silk, that means you know, like the old gangsters in the movies of Miami and shit. You know, you would look at that when you wearing silk, that means you're lavish. Now, if I'm not mistaken, in Revelation it speaks about
well, that's what the Most High set our forefather Aaron up, the priest Aaron, high priest Aaron up.
That's right.
So then he dressed him in blue silk.
Yep.
You know.
Check this out. This is Revelation speaking about the merchants. You know, this is the show how great silk is, right?
Yeah.
This is Revelation 18 and 11. It says, well, actually, on the side of 10, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Right, that's in 1 hour America is going to be destroyed. It says in 11, it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble. But it says of what? Fine linen and purple and silk. So Israel at the time, you know, Jake was walking around wearing silk. And what does it say about the silk and how their culture? It says that it had you go back to it.
It said silk culture was introduced into Spain by the Moors.
Right. So silk culture was introduced into Spain by who? By the Moors, Israelites. Right, because we listen, the scripture said we're the salt of the earth. Every time we do it big, man. So that wasn't the Ishmaelites. Now, although now you got these Ishmaelites in Saudi Arabia, you know, they're wearing lavish silk and whatever, you know, Ishmaelite garment, but they learned that from us. Look at how that Jake was dressed, man. You see how Jake was dressed right there in that picture? Come on, man. We taught the Ishmaelites how to wear their own garments, man. Because that's Israel being scattered across the four winds, man. But now we understand that because of that was because of the curses. But now the elect of Yahweh Shemel Shah are coming back to the true image, coming back to their true nationality. And that's what it is. That's why this whole, you know, the whole sit down about the diaspora, it's about going back into the past. But going back into the past, but not staying in the past. Going back into the past and bringing it back to the future, to the present, going into the future. You know, this is what we've done, and the Lord hasn't been happy about that. But this is the history of Israel. You know, right?
It says the Moors have fine pottery, glazed tiles, silks, velvet, brocades, jewels, and ornamental leather products. Moors civilization had a gigantic effect on Portugal and Spain.
That's right.
This is the reason that these two countries were the first European powers to emerge after the Dark Ages.
Right, because that's where you get King John and also what's that? The queen that funded the boy, man, Columbus.
Yeah, that's not.
If her name is not coming up, but she was part of the ones who funded Columbus on the trips. But that's the like it says, that's the reason why the first Edomites to rose up from Spain and Portugal and places, man. That's where you get the Borgia families, man. Those Spaniards. You know, so it's all relative and it all links up. That's why you go into the history. Now, listen, not every Jake likes the history. You know, we didn't really I remember me first coming up. I wasn't into history. I wasn't into going into history and reading. But you need to know history to be able to grow in this truth, man. Queen Isabella, right? And Queen Ferdinand, or what nation?
How far as Spain?
Right, Spain. And where was the year?
1493. When Columbus arrived back in Spain, he immediately wrote a letter announcing discoveries too. So I mean, of course, they funded it beforehand.
That's right.
But that was them.
Right, and that was right at the end of that was during the Renaissance, 1493. Right after the Moors had already been taken down, but Edom, Esau had risen up. They rose up and they took over, man. All the palaces, those were palaces. The palaces these Edomites was living on were palaces built by the Moors, by Israelites. But guess what happened? The Lord said, what's that scripture in Righteous Dealings?
Gotten by deceit. Yeah,
because that also happened with us. It also happened with us, man, as Moors, because you living in deceit. When as an Israelite, you moving around into Islam, you living in deceit, man. You got it?
No.
I think it's 10 and 8. Sirach 10.
It's 10 and 8.
Yeah, I think it's Sirach 10 and 8.
This is Sirach 10 verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right,
so that particular empire kingdom was translated from what? From Israelites under Islam to what? Of course, you got the Ottoman Empire, and then you got the Edomites that came through. So we would, why? Because again, under Islam, we were moving with what? We were moving with deceit, deceiving ourselves, man. And the Lord said, wherever thou goest. Actually, can I get our Judges 2 and 14?
Come.
So that's the reason why it's important. Again, being a Moor was a false image. When we were so-called Moors, we were under really fornication and idol worship, spiritual fornication, which is idolatry. That's why that kingdom wasn't going to last, but it was us. So now moving forward, we look back. That's why the scripture said we have the unction and we know all things. Because we're looking at the truth from the perspective of the end. When you're looking at the truth from the perspective of the beginning, you can't see it. You gotta you gotta look at the truth from the perspective of the end to see the whole thing. Right. So we know everything. We got 100% truth. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, through our apostles and elders. Why? Because we're at the end. We get to learn everything from Genesis to Revelation. We're learning everything in between, man. Right?
2 and 14.
Right.
Judges 2 and 14. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel. And he delivered them into the hands of spoilers that spoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about. Right. So that they could not any longer stand before their enemies.
Right. So when you get sold, of course, when you got the seed being sprayed, still, because that's the thing with Israel. Whether Israel is in captivity or not, Israel is still going to be having a lot of sex. Israel is still going to have a lot of seeds. And that's exactly what you see here in America, right? Esau's got all these programs of Planned Parenthood and, you know, homosexuality. He's pushing it hard for population reduction of Israel. It's still not working.
Jake still, yeah.
Because Jake is still having so much sex. And it's crazy because Esau put an enmity between our women and us. But we still out here having babies. Jake knows that the Israelite woman is going to put him in child support and destroy his life. But he's still having children with her regardless. You know what I'm saying? So it still wouldn't matter. But the Lord said that and because of that, having children not only with our women, but the women of other nations, what happens is that our children come out looking different, man.
Right.
But they're still Israelites, man. And you have to take that into account. You cannot block them from their right. Actually, get that on Amos chapter 9. Amos chapter 5 and then keep them from their rights. Amos chapter 5 verse 12.
This is it was on the other. This is yeah. Amos 5 verse 12. For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just. They take a bribe.
Right, that's you if you if you sitting there thinking, well, you know, that man don't look like the average Israelite, so therefore I can't accept him as an Israelite. Or like this one dude put a comment on one of you know, Prashad video that he had made, said, well, that you taking the whole with the spirit too far. You know, dude made a comment about, well, you know, because we hey, listen, we go with this spirit. But this, you know, dude make a comment like, well, you taking this thing, or we go by the spirit too far. What do you mean too far, man? If a man is an Israelite, he's an Israelite, man. We're not gonna say, well, you know, it's enough Israelite foreigners, man. We ain't, you know, there's no more space for any. No, who are you to decide that? Go ahead, Carl, and read it again.
This is Amos, Salakia, 5 verse 12.
Right.
For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just, they take a bribe, and they turn aside the poor in the gate from their right.
See that? They turn aside the poor from the gate. Who the gates is the heads. From their right. What is their right? Their right is the Commonwealth of Israel. Ephesians 2 and 10, right? The Commonwealth of Israel. You want to turn them away, but see, if you do that, the Lord is going to destroy you. You believe that you're an Israelite because you know you're an Israelite because of your physical looks. But you don't understand that the Lord said there's an Israel of the Most High, and there's an Israelite. Can I get that as well, brother?
Yep.
Romans 2, 1 to 28, the last verse, inwardly.
Okay.
Israelite inwardly. I think it's 1 to 28.
Okay.
Oh, 2. Nah, go to 2 and 20, the last two verses.
This is Romans 2 verse 28. Right. He is not a Jew, which is one outwardly.
Right, so you're not an Israelite just because you're you look like an Israelite, you got the features. Now, when the Lord said through Paul that you're not an Israelite, which is one outwardly, he's not saying that you're not a Hebrew Israelite. Right. You are a Hebrew Israelite.
It means your actions.
Right, but you're not the Israel of the Most High. Although what you are is just a natural man, a naturally born Israelite. But you're not an Israelite of the Most High because you're not, the spirit of the Most High is not dealing with you. So you stuck to level 1, a natural born Israelite, and that's it.
It's your actions too.
That's right, your actions.
Your outward appearance, your actions doesn't make it's the one inwardly, in your mind, man.
That's right, go ahead.
Right? It says, for he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly.
He is a Jew, which is one inwardly. Paul spoke about the inner man. The inner man is what? Your spirit. That's the inner man, your spirit. So you got to find, you got to get in contact with your spirit, man. And only the Most High can do that. Because if I say this right quick, our ability to know who's an Israelite, who's not through the spirit, that's given from Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Right.
Well, John the Baptist, what did he say? He said, who have warned thee from the wrath to come? He's talking about the scribes and Pharisees, right? And he said, think not to say that I have Abraham to our father.
That's right.
And just because you have Abraham, just because you're an Israelite doesn't mean anything.
That's right.
He said, therefore bring forth fruits meet for repentance.
That's right.
So it's your inward man, the faith inside, basically.
That's right. You got to be a child of faith, man. You're born of the spirit and born of faith, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is now. It's not about, we're not born of the law, statutes, commandments. We follow the law, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability because it's the doctrine of life. But what makes us who we are is having faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua.
For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. Circumcision is that of the heart and the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua.
That's right. So you can have a brother who looks like a heathen, and he can actually be uncircumcised physically. But if he's circumcised in the heart, but you being circumcised physically, and you have the outward appearance of an Israelite in the eye, but you don't believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua and Yahweh Shah, then the Lord ain't dealing with you. Then in the eyes of the Lord, you're just like a heathen. You know? So that's the understanding. Let's go back and finish up.
This is going back in the book, page 112. It says, Moorish civilization had a gigantic effect on Portugal and Spain. This is the reason that these two countries were the first European powers to emerge after the Dark Ages. In the process of time, the Moors were driven southward. In the 11th century, El Cid conquered the great Moor city of Valencia. Much later, in the 13th century, the king of Castile conquered Sevilla and Cordoba. Afterward, the Moors were pushed into a small region called Granada.
Right, that's when they started losing their power. Why? Because the Lord, the excellency was Yahweh Bashim Shah, not dealing with Islam. That's idol worship. So you only got to come up one way, and that's through Yahweh Shah. That's through being who you supposed to be. You know, which is your own face. What's your face? Your face is being a Hebrew Israelite, man. And regardless of how you look, if your spirit merges with the understanding of these words, which these words are spirit, then you're one of us, man.
That's right.
And if if you remain in the truth, then you're part of the election. Then you're also going to be delivered, man.
And Akim, And Akim, like the apostles like to always phrase, and here at GMS, you know, and here at GMS, you'll learn this.
That's right.
And from the apostles on down, from apostles, elders on down, we're the ones that teach you this. You had the brother earlier. He was a little rocky and confused, and he said, "Thank you, brothers, for clearing that up for us."
That's right.
But see, brothers at GMS are going to teach you the truth, man. It's not about what you look like, man. It's not about your mother, man. It's about your father's line, man.
That's right.
All right. You got a family. You finally found a family, man. And the world doesn't understand you, but you have men that understand you, man. You look different than everybody else. All right. You feel different than everybody else, even though you look like them. You're one of us, man. You finally found a family. Not like I should be cared. Some other Israelite group that'll cast you out and not judge your spirit.
That's right.
You know?
Con, brother. Let's close up, because that was pretty much the answer. We're going to close up with what's Isaiah 11:11?
Yeah. Yep. This is Isaiah.
And again, you know, I mean, again, these topics, you know, this is, remember, wisdom as a man of the law, you have the unction, you're supposed to know all things. But you know, you got Jakes, you know, Jakes don't like to get into the history, you know, because it gets tedious. But that's the reason why, through the Spirit, you're still on the level that you are. Because it takes tedious study to grow. You know, remember we always talk about that. The Heavenly Father will bring forth, through His Spirit, He will bring forth the knowledge that's within you. Yeah. But how do you get that knowledge?
Education.
You got to study. You got to sacrifice, and you got to go through the tedious part of studying.
Education means to bring from, you know, within.
Bring from within.
So they, you know, they're pulling it in, pulling it out of you.
Yeah. So if you don't want to study, you don't like history, and you don't, well, guess what? There's gonna be topics where you're not gonna be able to communicate to a brother because of your lack of knowledge. You know. So hey, man. We know, because the apostles used to say that. Remember the apostles said, oh man, when we going into history, ain't going to be no views.
Right.
But if you start talking about the nigger woman,
yep.
You know what I'm saying? You start talking about the nigger woman and then this and that, all of a sudden, you're going to have a whole bunch of views. So we know how it goes, but we know that the true, sincere men, top teachers, they would definitely get down and do what they got to do to be able to have answers when they're asked questions. It ain't nothing worse than a brother asking you a question because he don't know, and you call yourself a teacher and you don't know what to tell him. That feeling, I've been there. That's a horrible feeling. But that feeling made me want to study even more. You know, put in the time, man. Put in the time so we can have the answers, man.
And it's a beautiful feeling when you get back to that brother.
That's right.
And let him know the answer.
That's right.
And then they see that, oh, he was sincere. He looked for it.
Yeah.
And you wanted to do it. And now you can, you know, you can enlighten everybody else.
That's right.
This Isaiah 11:11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set His hand again the second time to recover the remnant of His people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathro, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the isles of the sea. That's
right. I mean, that remnant is talking about what? Israelite foreigners, man, coming from the four corners of the earth. Coming out of the diaspora, you know, and again, it's really the diaspora of Israelite spirits elect. Because Yahweh Bashim Shah only cares about the election, man. Yahweh Shah only cares about His elect. He said that in several scriptures. He only prays for the elect. You know what I'm saying? And He gave us, it's our duty to bring this up for the Israelite foreigners. Why? Because they feel estranged. They feel estranged. Some of them do feel estranged because they got a lot they got to battle with, man. Yeah. You imagine looking like an Edomite, man. You got to constantly convince yourself that you're not an Edomite, man. And your skin, you wake up with that bullshit ass skin every day, man.
Right.
And the demons that are traveling through your mind and through this flesh, eating you up, man. I'm happy I don't have to deal with that curse. But it's because we feel for them brothers that we have to do this, man.
Just know that you have a family, man.
Yeah.
Your whole life now, you know you have a family, man. All right, know that you have a family. It's your real family, as long as you believe in Yahweh Shah.
That's right. So with that concludes our part 2 of the Moorish Empire. You know, hopefully you brothers was edified, man. We was able to bring some more information. But like I said, hey man, the bulk of the information came up in part 1. You know, it was heavy, it was really long. We brought a whole lot. So you watch the 2 parts, get edified through the spirit. We getting edified as we go. You know, and we know it works. It definitely pays dividends in the spirit when we out there edifying the hopeful elect. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. You know, there's just Yahweh Shah said in Ephesians 3:19, for his love is the passing of knowledge. So how you gonna pass the knowledge that you don't got? So you can't even show love unless you got the knowledge. Exactly. So you gotta gain knowledge. You gotta be humble and pray to the Lord. And put in the work and sacrifice your time to get the knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully, again, we was edified, man. Lord willing, the next topic of the Israelite diaspora would be, and of course, in Babylon and Timbuktu. It would be the expulsion, page 115, the expulsion of the Jews from Spain and Portugal. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go into that, like I said, Lord willing, next week. If not next week, the week after. You know, so we might take some breaks in between through the spirit. But we're going to continue with this, you know, stay on fire, man. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, the Lord is bringing out these race wars, man. The internet, the Most High going to shut it down. So we doing everything we can, you know, with due diligence, man, to make our calling for the election a show. You know what I'm saying? We do our part. We put the work out there, right? And the angels, you know, put that on the record. They put it in the books.
That's right.
And that's all we could do. Whether you want to listen or not, that's on you, man.
One brother got his, you know, nationality stuff cleared up.
That's right.
You know, right there alone.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. So with that, of course, we're going to say Kal Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashim, B'chakodesh. We're going to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, salutation to all you sincere occupants across the 4 winds, man. Pushing and shoot for sincerity of heart. Stay strong, stay faithful, stay watchful. Hey, man, listen, strap up, man, because I tell you what, y'all, we keep talking about the riots. The race wars, the first riots is coming, man. And that's going to change everything, man. You know what I'm saying? So with that, we're going to say shalom.
Shalom.